Hey, I want to welcome you to the July 18th meeting of the Barnstable County Commissioners and ask that you join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please take a moment and remember all of our servicemen and women who serve our country, both here and overseas, and particularly remember those who gave their lives for us. Thank you. So is there any public comment? No. Hearing none, we will move on to our first item on our agenda, and we want to welcome Sean O'Brien. He's the Director of the Regional Emergency Planning Committee and 911 Dispatch. And lots of things are happening in that area, I know. So I'm sure you have a lot to tell us.
Yes, I do. It's a pretty busy meeting day actually, and in an hour we have our full REPC meeting over at the Fire Academy. Again, my name is Sean O'Brien, and I am the coordinator of the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning.
Gave you a new title.
I appreciated the
You're
promotion.
okay.
Yeah. It's been a very, very busy year, and so I felt it was actually very nice to have the opportunity to come in and give you a quick update as to what's going on. Probably one of the biggest things that's happening right now is this committee has met probably about 4 or 5 times and has started to look at some of the options for the area. I would guess that probably in the next month or so we'll start seeing positions come out and everything else. So the process is moving forward, and the towns are looking at it. We've actually, I think for the most part, it's been pretty good. Some pretty good lively discussion. Been acting as the facilitator with it, and I've been pretty happy with the direction that it's going. So hopefully in a couple of months or so, even a month or a couple of months down the road, we can sit down and talk about what's happening as this committee continues its work and moves into the direction. Additionally, we've been working quite a bit with the communities on regional sheltering.
Can I stop you?
Okay.
Why don't you tell a little bit, because I think it was very helpful for the 911
Sure.
sort of steering committee to see about the tours that we did.
Yeah, it was very good. We actually have taken the folks out to see a couple of different locations. The first one was up in Hingham. It's a regional dispatch that does both police and fire. Actually, does police, fire, and EMS. It has 4 communities involved. I think it was Hingham, Everett, Hingham,
Hull,
yeah.
And
the
then
4-H.
Cohasset hadn't quite joined.
They were just starting to come in. And that was the first visit, which allowed folks to see not just fire, but fire, police, dispatch in the same building. And it was a pretty good tour. It was a smaller facility, but it was
a little bit sleepy.
It was not as busy as could be down here. But it was a great opportunity for people to see a multidisciplined approach taken.
The thing I'd add about that, Sean, is that one thing they did a little differently there is they created a completely separate entity. So that is like I forget, it has a southwest blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think they set it up as almost a district.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like a separate municipality. It has a separate checking account, the whole nine yards. It's a separate thing.
They use a town facility for it, but it is set up as almost a district. And it's kind of neat the way there was actually special legislation developed for this facility in particular that can be used across the state to look at this process in other areas as well. But it was developed by the state 911 board.
I heard a presentation by that at the regional planning conference at Holy Cross last year. Remember that? The town manager from Norwell.
Okay.
He was one of the leaders. That's the other town that's involved.
He's on the governance board.
Yeah, and he made a presentation of how all that happened. And the thing that a lot of managers and others who were there at the conference were pleased to hear him say is that they were able to utilize the personnel from the towns
Yes.
that had worked in dispatch, in
Yes.
police and fire, who actually were the initial employees in this new center, even though it was separate. And I don't recall how they actually continued their employment with the town so that they didn't lose any of their
I think there were a lot of union negotiations.
I believe so.
environmental.
I think that
And
was
I-
dealt with in the legislation.
Right.
Things got transferred,
Yeah.
preserve their rights,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Exactly, and what benefits they had, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there was quite a bit to it. It was not it was a very long process. And I know that.
I think it's still going on.
It is actually, and they're still waiting to bring Cohasset in
Yeah.
as well. So it's it's a big undertaking. To get all those disciplines together under one roof. And, but, it was, I think it was very good we had most of our board members there. I think we had only one board member that wasn't, or one of the steering committee members was not there to be able to see it, but everybody else was. And so it was a good opportunity for them to see that type of multidiscipline dispatch center.
Right.
The next one we went to, we actually did a little bit of a road trip. The sheriff's department was great. They provided us with transportation, and luckily it wasn't a white van. But they provided us transportation, and the sheriff drove, and we went out first to check out the Berkshire County facility that is housed by the Berkshire County Sheriff. That, again, was a very small facility. It's within the jail complex itself. They handle all three, police, fire, and EMS. The thing there was, an issue that's always been kind of coming up with this has been the dark station issue. If this happens, do stations close? They've been dealing with the dark station issue for years. It's been an issue that's been kind of moving along for, these are departments that are a lot smaller than what we have in some cases. And they work almost a regular, they're 24/7, but they have an office hour of almost, say maybe an 8 to 8 or something like that. And so it was a great example, again, to see it happen. It was a very small facility, but it was really, it was very sleepy. It was a very, very quiet location. So from there, we actually continued our road trip. And we went to Onondaga County, New York. We went up to Syracuse. And we took a look at what they're doing in Syracuse for the entire county. That was, I think, the awakening for a lot of folks to see how well regional dispatch can work in a multidiscipline setting. I mean, we've been doing a great job of it for years. I mean, we've had the sheriff's department, they have 9 fire departments, they handle fire EMS. They've been doing it for a long time, I think 14 years. This was absolutely amazing to see. It was a dedicated building that handled, police, fire, EMS, state police, county sheriffs, anything that had to do with public safety fell within this facility. In the hour that we were in the dispatch room in the call center, we saw 200 calls come in as a part of that. They serve a population of about 450,000 people. And it was amazing to see it happen. Dispatchers are discipline oriented. You have police dispatchers, you have fire dispatchers, you have EMS. And then you have call takers. They take the call, they put it to the right dispatcher. And quite honestly, I don't think I heard anybody raise their voice in the room once. It was one of those things where you saw a well-oiled machine working.
Right.
And I think everybody there was pretty impressed. There were about 6 of us that went up, folks from fire, folks from police, folks from the sheriff's office, and myself. And we saw this operation, and on the 6-hour car ride back, you had people that may not have been for it, kind of changing their mind and saying, this may be the way to go. And this is where this committee is going to keep moving. I think this trip to Onondaga County said to folks that this is probably the best way of doing it, is having a dispatch center that handles, you know, police, fire, EMS from that one location. And, you know, and it isn't necessarily, you know, saying it's cost savings. Maybe in a long run it could be a cost savings, but it's also looking and saying, you know, just the way it works, it seemed like the right way. And what was amazing was you started to see folks really embrace it and look at the study that was conducted by Intertech Associates in a different light. You know, I think there was a lot of controversy with the Intertech study at the end, but after seeing what regional dispatch in that multidiscipline setting could do, it really sent people back, and in some cases folks had reread the study and had said, I appreciate it more now. And so
they can see what it means.
They can see what it means.
Physically.
Exactly.
Now, when you say EMS, are you including CMed as we know it in that, or is that
They probably
like
had
the
some.
PSAP?
They probably had some. It was a PSAP.
It was a PSAP.
It was a public safety answering point for the entire county,
Okay.
which handled the city of Syracuse, and they are actually looking to expand. They're looking to actually bring in other counties in New York State into this facility. But they, what they have for any type of a CMed, I'm not particularly sure, but it would have been housed in this facility
When
as
you
well.
say EMS, you don't necessarily mean CMed, because different places do it differently.
Yes.
You know, some
Yeah,
through the
especially
a lot of places do it through their hospitals, and so the hospital's sort of responsible for that piece of the communication.
But but can you call it by another name and it be the same thing?
Well, they do the CMed function, it's just a question as to how they do it. It's not always a part of the dispatch piece.
Right.
Oh.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but
The dispatch may dispatch the ambulance, okay, we have an accident, blah, 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 go. Then the ambulance itself has maybe direct communication with,
but there is direct communication between a hospital and an ambulance.
almost always,
Yeah,
I would
almost
say,
always, and there was
in
there.
these
Yeah,
situations.
in those cases they were doing that.
Yeah.
Now, how do they handle how they pay for equipment? Does each town, each community, I mean, I know other states are different the way they operate because
Yeah.
public safety is all part of the county as opposed to individual.
It was a county department.
It's a whole county
It was a
department.
county
It's all
department,
part of
yeah.
the tax base of the county.
It was they had it set up under their county tax base. They had it set up as a county department that handled, I think it was actually a communications department. I can't remember the exact name of the department, but it was Onondaga County Department of Communications and Dispatch.
In Hingham, the South Coast, whatever it's called, on the other hand, they do an assessment to their 4 member towns. And so, you know, they go through a budget setting process like we do every year, and if they need capital equipment, they put it in the budget.
Put it in the budget.
And, you know, the budget has to be approved at the local level through town
Yeah.
meeting
It's
or
all
whatever.
Exactly.
Portioned out by population or something like that.
Exactly, by population, you know, et cetera. Their county system is pretty strong out there. A lot of what they do is county-based. You know, what's interesting is their system is set up where, you know, the way this works, if a call is made, and let's say that there's an assault happening on the streets of Syracuse, if you have a sheriff's department there, or a state police officer car there closer than Syracuse City Police Department, with their vehicle monitoring systems, they can actually send that state trooper there and not have them drive by it and not be dispatched. They've been able to cross a lot of lines.
To integrate, the different
Exactly.
law enforcement agencies and
And
the different levels, the local, the state, the county.
Exactly, and it's that way with fire, and I know they do use some private ambulance services as well. So it was, again, a well-oiled machine.
What's remarkable about this was that 30 years ago, we used to use Syracuse as a test market for a lot of new products. And the reason was that the demographic there at that time represented the same diversity demographic across the whole country. So for, to hear that it's working and it's applied down here, we would do well to, to watch from a lot of other things too.
And they've been doing this for 21 years. They started in about 1991, and they have a board of governors set up that kind of oversees it, and it's made up of representatives from police, fire, EMS, and they have a hired person that runs them for them. They are actually the person's title is he's a county commissioner. He's the commissioner of emergency dispatcher. And it was, and his background was police service. And was very involved in the actual development of the system itself. So it was an awakening, and I think once people saw it and they saw the product, they said, okay, this may be something that we can look at here. And so that's the task of this committee now. I don't think they'll ask to go see a dispatch center in Maui, but I think we're done with our visits. I think they saw what they wanted. And and they're very good. We've got a really good committee working on this, and
Now,
I'm very happy.
how is this planning function being affected by the grant that the sheriff just received to upgrade some of his equipment at his dispatch center?
I don't think it affects it at all. I mean, I think the folks that are using regional dispatch are benefiting from it, and anybody that moves into the sheriff's department for regional dispatch would benefit from all of those technologies. I think what we're looking at is you start to move towards this process, and as they start to look at this dispatch center, this combined dispatch center function, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year process as it moves down the road between grant money and everything else. And also a lot of it is even the development of structure and governance and things like that. So, things are, everyday life goes on. And I think that's kind of what that does. It's gonna, to me, I think it's a great grant. I think the fact that they're able, that the sheriff's department is now able to provide that even more intricate capability with their CAD system, their computer-aided dispatch. I think it's pretty impressive.
Now, and then too, how is all of this connected to the 700 megahertz piece coming from the Open Cape?
Yeah, it has the potential to be connected to it at some point. We've actually had to just slow down a little bit with 700 megahertz now that the FCC has become has made quite a bit of changes regarding the whole approval process. The federal brakes were put on with 700, and basically it's not that it's going away. It's not. What they've done is it was moving so quick that I think there was this fear that that a lot of jurisdictions were putting in very different systems, and that interoperability between those systems would be compromised. So the FCC basically, because we had a waiver to work with the system ready to go, ready to be submitted by Representative Keating's office. But we had to hold off on that because they actually removed the whole waiver process. They weren't going to give out any more waivers, primarily because they wanted to bring everybody into an interoperable mode, the folks that were already out there.
That is really a good thing. When we supported sending radios to Plymouth, for example, it was because it was to our benefit for Sandwich and Bourne that Plymouth would be able to support a mutual aid to communicate with them, and I think that was one of the wise decisions we made to support that investment.
Well, and one of the nice things that's happened with 700 is we've seen the Executive Office of Public Safety become more involved with it. When we first started out with 700, the City of Boston and Barnstable County were really the only two entities looking at 700 and the potential that it could do. We were seeing, we were kind of, when we approached the state about it, it was something, because they were doing so much work with the state police radio system and the 800 band, there wasn't a lot of focus being conducted on that 700 system. So once the FCC got involved, we saw the Executive Office of Public Safety get involved. And we have a fantastic undersecretary by the name of Kurt Wood. And I think Kurt is going to be very involved with the FCC and be a great representative from the state on some of these boards that are being developed by FCC. And will definitely help the state out as we start to look forward and move forward with that system. I see it as just a slight delay because a lot of timelines were established in the law. So when Congress approved these changes, there were a lot of very strict timelines put on with it. So I think we're going to probably start rolling again in the fall, fall, winter, again with some of the projects, and and we'll be involved directly. We've been assured by the state that we would be involved directly with them as we start asking for some of the grants and the equipment, because probably fewer of the grants come down statewide, and we're in a really good situation to accept some of that money. Right?
Well, there's
Good,
always.
yeah, I think that's a good thing on the 911, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good.
I sing your praises wherever I go, and when I
Thank you.
describe, I just got back from NACO, when I describe what we do for regional emergency planning, I get a lot of, how do you get all that done? And I say it's because we have the right person coordinating the, the intersect between, among fire, police, and health, and they say that they would like to move along that road.
Well, we're very lucky because you as commissioners, you allow us to really take it, and you hand us the ball and we run with it, and it makes it good, and it makes it easy. It's allowed us to do a lot of different things, and I mean, at some point, be happy to come in and talk to you about the sheltering program as well, because I think we're going to have, I'm knocking
You should
on
talk
wood.
about it, Sean, you still
Yeah,
have
you have
some
plenty of
time.
time.
Okay.
You can talk.
I just wanted to say, so on the 911, I mean, I think we've come a long way. Sean mentioned 4 or 5 meetings ago when we just put this little steering committee together. We had our first meeting, and we weren't sure really whether there was going to be a second meeting.
That's
That
right.
was sort of
Mhm.
the attitude from some of the members towards kind of a more enhanced regional approach to 911 dispatch. And so I think we've come a long way, baby, even to get to the point where we are now. We've got a lot of work to do. Jim Merriam, who's the Harwich Town Administrator, he is the representative to this steering committee, and he's on the 911
Yes.
statewide
Been on there for a long time.
PSAP committee, whatever that's called, yeah. So he's an excellent link to this. He made a presentation to the town administrators last Thursday. They're very enthusiastic, so that's another building block here. But we got a lot of stuff to do. Governance is going to be a big issue.
Governance.
Sort of the role the sheriff plays going forward, long term, that's going to be a big issue. So there's a lot of stuff to work out. Yeah.
Yep.
But-
So-
And a business plan.
And a business plan. So what is the ultimate vision?
I think if we had to look at an ultimate vision, it could be, the report actually recommended 2 dispatch centers. I think if I had to take a read of the committee, we're probably looking at 1. Yeah, I think we're looking at 1.
One that could be expanded if necessary, or
Yeah.
just for the Cape, doesn't include the islands?
It would
Could
be,
include the
I think the concentration right now is Barnstable County.
Mm-hmm.
There has been some discussion with some off-Cape. Nantucket, if I'm not mistaken, has just done some pretty significant upgrades over there. And Martha's
They
Vineyard
have
already does it, yeah. And Martha's Vineyard does it already. They actually do regional dispatch through their sheriff's department over there. So, but there has been some discussion about it. But I think the big focus right now is kind of, let's see where the 15 towns want to go. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Mark kind of hit the nail right on the head there. We weren't sure if there was going to be meeting number 2, so it was kind of nice to be able to take that study and to let people really think about it. And it's been nice the way it's been moving forward.
And that includes the fire districts from Barnstable as well?
They were assessed as a part of the study. In regards to governance and participation, that's a little ways down the road. Yeah, a little ways down. So it's good. Yeah. And so, and anything else on 700 or?
Yeah,
No?
but I agree with Bill. I think you've done a
You
good job.
Well, thank you.
You've stayed very focused and pushed this ball forward. gently and well and in the right direction, so.
I might mention to people, when you say 700, we have a special understanding, tell people what that means.
I was gonna
Sure,
say,
okay.
I
So-
don't really understand
Yeah.
myself, quite frankly.
Yeah, 700 is actually a radio frequency, and it's a frequency that we can use for data. What it basically allows us to do is it's almost a super Wi-Fi. It's something that is able to move a lot of data quickly and can provide a huge benefit to public safety agencies. What we can do is, and right now, normal bandwidth that we have on the Cape will not allow us, even our cellular bandwidth or our Verizon, we do not really have the capability of having real-time video go to our hospital if there's a patient coming in, let's say from Provincetown. With 700, the capability is there. It also gives capability to towns for running police records, running CJIS, which is the Criminal Justice Information System. It provides a lot of data capacity for those public safety agencies, and it was set aside there was certain bands that were set aside just for public safety. So that they're actually the old television bands, and they're used primarily. It was kind of an exchange with the whole Nextel thing years and years ago, about maybe 5-6 years ago. There was an exchange and some bandwidth, and that's what this was.
Is Open Cape being able to enhance that now that we're getting
Open
this?
Open Cape has been the one who introduced it.
Okay, so
Yep.
so it's all part of that
It's all part of
initiative.
that.
Great.
Yep, and that was one of the great things about it.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things, and with the Open Cape grant, we'll pretty much have the infrastructure there just to put the system in.
Right.
We may be buying 700 radios when that is all approved by FCC. What is able to be used, we'll have the infrastructure there to put those things into the
It's
towers.
going to be a great help.
And
Great
that's
service.
huge.
That's sort of the key piece about the success. I mean, when you point to sort of the thing they're doing on a Dago or whatever,
Mhm.
that it's all. Mark Foley was there, who's the deputy chief in Eastham. He's our deputy director at the Fire Training Academy. He went along, and the thing that he keeps stressing is, you mentioned, it's sort of quiet. There's not a lot of chit chat on the radio. It's because it's all CAD driven. It's all computer driven. You sort of push a button, the dispatcher goes to wherever it needs to go. All the information in the cruiser or in the fire truck, they have it all right
Mhm.
there. It's all on a computer screen. The GPS, coordinates, direct, all of that stuff
Yeah.
is there. The hazardous material
Yep.
files and inventories. And so you don't need to have a lot of chit chat.
No,
So that's
no.
the key to this whole thing, and that's the key to sort of doing it efficiently, is you have to have these computer systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw a screen one time when a call came in, and on the screen, it was a fire, and there was, showed the house where it
Mhm.
was, and the street, like Google Earth. It showed where the nearest fire hydrant was.
Oh, yeah.
It said how many people were living in the house, what their ages were, if anyone was disabled, if there was a wheelchair
Right.
available, if there were other issues that
Mhm.
anyone in the house needed. And this is all coming through as the engines and
Yeah.
are on their way to the house. So by the time they get there, they have all the information they need
Mhm.
to,
And they're
To
even
start.
putting in the sensitive areas of that
Yep.
location, so if there's environmental, like if they're gonna use foam or, something, they'll know where, if that's a thought that they could use because of the area that it's in and.
Exactly. It's that layered database that gives you all of that information you need. And the neat thing is, when you add 700 into the mix, then if you have mutual aid coming in or apparatus coming in, they have real-time video of that as they're pulling up to the scene.
Right.
So they can actually see if you already have a crew on scene and they're taking that video, your mutual aid companies have that capability of coming in and seeing that in real-time video in their vehicles as they're coming into the fire.
Well, that's why it's very important, I know that in the town of Wellfleet, and I'm sure every town does this, they send you that letter around tax time or something saying, this is the makeup of your household, if anybody
Mhm.
has changed.
Yep.
It's very important to fill those out
Yeah,
and
fill
send
them
them back to the towns, because that town, that's the information that gets logged into those
Yep.
GIS spots.
Yep. Into their
And
systems.
if there's a pet if it's a house pet,
Mhm.
or they have to know that, and
Yeah.
so it's all of those things are important, so.
Absolutely, very good.
So now
Yeah.
in the other end of the spectrum, if you were, say, a patient, you're a victim of an accident or a heart attack or a stroke at home or anywhere, at a shopping mall, with the rescue vehicles, the ambulances, would they all have the same equipment and all have the same capability of being able to communicate directly, say, with the hospital emergency room and the
Sure.
physician on the Cape? All of that will
All of them. I mean, I think to a degree they have that now using
Yeah.
CMed through the
Yeah.
radio system. But to be able to enhance that with video,
Mhm.
so a doctor or a nurse in the emergency room can actually get a real-time video of that person as they're starting, as they're going through this whatever this medical condition may be. That's where the enhancement comes in.
Right.
And it allows them, it's a 45-minute ambulance ride
Right.
from
Yeah.
from Wellfleet
If you're
even.
lucky,
Yeah,
on a particular day, and,
Exactly.
in the summertime especially, 45 minutes maybe in the wintertime, but,
yeah.
if
And
you're lucky
summer
in
it's
the
an hour,
summer,
hour
it's-
and 15.
It could be, and so I would imagine that, that now the physician is looking and seeing what they're performing on this person, getting the stats, getting the readout, and they could actually give,
Mhm.
instruction as that person, like,
Yeah.
if you do this, we'll have a chance of keeping them
That's
at
right.
least alive
Mhm.
until you get here, you need to do this, you need to do that, so you can start doctoring the minute they're in that ambulance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And everybody would have that capability.
That's a real.
What was kind of neat when we did our first radio frequency study for the Cape, I think we saw about 85% of the Cape was covered under the preliminary setup. As we start getting into grants, we can tighten up that, we can get that tightened up very quick where, there are minimal dead spots.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
great.
As important as all the communication linkage is, I don't think we can lose sight of the fact that, the people that populate the EMTs and the fire service, are the backbone. It wouldn't work unless they had a high standard of quality. And I know that our fire
Yeah.
academy, contributes to that. And I see that
Absolutely.
we're now pulling them in to the fire academy for our meetings,
Yeah.
which I think is a wonderful thing to bring all of that together on a regular basis.
And this is something that we've worked with Cape and Islands EMS since about 2003. One of the things that, when we got our first Homeland Security grant, we looked at, we actually gave police chiefs, fire chiefs, health agents, different groups, we paid for air cards to see what the capabilities were. And the goal was to establish exactly what we were talking about. Well, we saw the limitations, even going into 3G. Which the Cape is mostly right now. Now, as you start to get into that 4G mode that where you see with cell phones, I mean, and I'm using the lingo, but not 100% sure what G stands for.
No, one is faster than the other.
But I know the higher the number, the faster it
Yeah,
is.
it's kind of the size of the pipe.
Yeah, exactly. You start to see this. You start to see these things start to come to fruition. And in Cape and Islands EMS and the Fire Academy and the folks in the EMS and the fire field and police field, these are folks that as many tools as we can give them is important to do.
Why don't you talk a little bit, because it's getting to be that time of year, it's hurricane season, and so we need regional sheltering you're talking about?
Well, we actually at 2 o'clock have a presentation today. We have a gentleman coming in to speak to us about our weather. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about the predictions for the year. And it's been kind of interesting because it seemed like it was going to be a slower year for hurricane season. And you know what, knock on wood, it's been fairly quiet so far. But we did have a really close call last year. Irene, we had a lot of power outages. We've had a lot of, we also saw that this was a major event for the entire state. And with that occurring, it just reinforced the need for us here in Barnstable County to take responsibility for ourselves.
Mhm.
I mean, Western Mass was buried under 16 inches of rain. There were road washouts, there were power outages, and a good portion of the state out there was recovering from a tornado earlier in June. We were able to stand up 6 regional shelters as a part of that. And so we've been continuing on with that project. We basically have 6 shelters across the Cape. We're finishing up with the written plan to get it out to the communities to have them approve it. What our goal will be is, once the plan is completed, we will bring it into the commissioners. We will we'll let you see it, and if you know, and take whichever. We'll talk about what action to take, etc. Then our goal is then to bring it out to the 15 communities, to the boards of selectmen, much like we did with the hazmat plan, and have those towns review it and approve it as well. We've set up 6 regional shelters. We're at Nauset High School, we're at Cape Cod Tech, we have Dennis Yarmouth, we have Barnstable, we have Falmouth, and we have Sandwich. We're also looking at the potential of 2 smaller satellite shelters that can open up in a couple of our far-reaching areas. We've been working with Provincetown. The county actually has a trailer full of supplies down there that they use to support a small shelter in Provincetown. We have it's no matter what, it's still about a 20-mile, well, I'll say 15, 20-mile ride from Provincetown to Nauset High School. So we felt it was important to start looking at satellites. We actually have some facilities, the veterans school, that I think we're going to try to get a little bit more equipment down there this year. And then we're also working with the town of Bourne. We're working with Bourne for a shelter on the other side of the bridge. We have Scusset Beach Campground, and we have Buzzards Bay. And you know, if the Cape Cod traffic plan is implemented, folks trying to go back and forth over the bridge, even though it does not do contraflow, is still not going to be easy. So it's important for us to have a shelter over there. So we're right now trying to locate a trailer to do the same thing with the folks in Bourne, and have some equipment and supplies with that.
Are you connecting with the military academy?
Maritime Academy, yep. We actually work quite a bit with the Maritime Academy, and they're aware of what's going on as well, because they're in the slosh zone, so to speak, the floodplain with that facility. So what we're also doing is working outside of the county with the town of Plymouth. The town of Plymouth is actually interested in working with the town of Bourne of setting that up with a regional shelter, because it's also outside of the EPZ. And the emergency protection zone for Pilgrim. So it's actually a great location. And so we're working with Charlie Noyes, who is the director in Bourne, the emergency manager in Bourne. And we're trying to finalize, and as I said, we're going to try to get some equipment down there, trying to find a trailer, kind of juggling some things right now to see what we can do. But we do have a little bit of extra equipment. As you know, we received $100,000 in Homeland Security money, and we have 6 Connex boxes ready to go that can go to each shelter, which is filled with cots, dog crates, dog bowls, blankets for people. We have even I think the Red Cross has put games in there for children and everything. So we have these Connex boxes that are able to be moved pretty rapidly, and those can go to each of the shelters. And honestly, during Irene, every shelter opened. We had probably 250, I think our count was a little over 250 clients between all of the shelters. We had about 100 people alone at Dennis Yarmouth because there was a football camp evacuated. So we've been working really hard to get this finalized. And what was great was, you know, and it's always good when you can talk about another county program, and that's the AmeriCorps program. We had a volunteer this year, Annie Cook, who was actually able to. She is at the sheltering meeting as we speak, and she's giving them the draft plan, and they're reviewing it. So we're ready for this year for hurricane season. We've got a draft plan that we can work from.
If you're going to, if you're presenting that draft plan today, is it the intent that they'll approve that today?
No, they're just, it's been pretty much for, we need some red marks. We need people to go over it and take a look at it and see if it's going to work within their community. So we made about 20 copies of that draft plan for them to mark up for us. We wanted to get, this is the first draft out to them. So we wanted to get them to look at it and get it back to us, and we'll handle all the comments.
From time to time, Sean, you've been on my program, I think it's time to do it again, because
Okay.
I think that are you free Monday? Take a look back, the 23rd.
23rd, I may not be.
That's where you're going,
That's right.
All right, well, when you,
Yeah.
give me a date after the 3rd.
Yeah, do that.
You got
That's
plenty of
personal
openings.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I
actually,
wanted to
not.
mention
No.
the M3Q
Sure.
meeting, which is the military meeting at the base. We met last week,
Yes.
and of course the evacuation plan came up again, which some refer to as happy talk.
Yeah.
It really doesn't get you
Really?
anywhere.
That's a
Yeah.
nice way to put
Citizen.
it.
That's a nice way to put it, yeah. But I think the military now, at least the outcome of the meeting was that there's going to be a far more serious look taken at an evacuation plan, something that might work.
Well, you know those barriers that you see, like you can, if you're coming up towards the Bourne Bridge, you see these steel things sort of parked out, well, we own those.
Yeah, we own those.
We own those, we
Those are
insure
ours.
them, we own
I
them.
mean, up towards the Bourne Bridge.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
it's parked behind the, if you, just before exit 1 there, or maybe it's exit 3.
Oh,
now. Just behind the guardrail, you'll see a bunch of steel
Oh.
portable barriers, what they
Oh.
really are. And what they're intended to do is to direct
Is to
traffic to
that-
where
is
it's
to
supposed
do
to
that?
go
Yeah.
in the event of an evacuation. So,
state,
we own
state
those.
bought them and we took,
Yeah,
we took
well,
That's
ownership.
nice.
And
And-
just as a
Not the
heads
real
up, I think you're
deploy
on the
that.
list for
Think
the
of
next
something else,
meeting.
but
I
know.
I think
I'd
you
be
get
happy.
a lot
Yeah.
of boats.
Yeah.
No, I think well, they always say they're serious, but they seem to be very serious about really doing something that makes sense.
Right.
Well, what's been kind of a breath of fresh air is the Mass Emergency Management Agency has been taking has been really doing a good job, seriously looking at the plan. And anytime they either implement it or get close to implementing it, they're doing a very good after action report. They have a gentleman by the name of Rich Latour who actually runs the plan. And Rich and I have had a lot of conversations of some of the areas. We're in a very unique situation because it's just limited how we can get on and off the Cape. And quite honestly, it's like until it happens, you don't know how it's going to be. And it's been a long time since we've had that type of a situation. All through Irene, we heard the potential of the bridges getting closed. We heard rumors of the bridge getting closed, but it never closed. Neither of the bridges closed during Irene.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where, as you go through and you do planning, you're trying to look at things worst case scenario. Well, we're already in worst case scenario because of just our egress situation. MEMA has been very good at trying to expand the plan and look at additional things. And one of the big things was setting up the shelter at Otis. To be able to funnel people off and into Otis. Now, granted, it may not be the easiest route to take, but to at least have that shelter of last resort at the bridge that can handle 3,000 people, that's pet friendly, that already has supplies and equipment there. It's one of those things that they were very good and very proactive, and our Red Cross was very much involved in that through Glenn Beasley and through the chapter here.
Right.
And now as it's gone up
And
to
now it's like Hillary Green and it's in coordination
Mass
with the
Bay
Mass
and-
Bay, right?
it's really gone forward, and it's been good to see, but I want to see us a little bit more involved in. We've been involved, but I want us to get a little bit more into just some of the thoughts and the decisions with it, because as we start to look, I mean, it's probably at this point it's a decent thing. But we really need to take it and see what else we can. We may even have to think outside of the box on it. And this is an area potentially where there's a lot of work happening with the Cape Cod Commission at the Canal Crossing and all of that. And these are things where we've talked to Clay Schofield. We've had Clay come in, speak to the REPC. And as we start to slow down with the shelter program, we already see another project picking up and how we can start looking at some of those issues as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
Very good job.
Yep.
Excellent.
Seems like we'll always have work.
Yeah.
And where is your meeting?
I could be at the Fire Academy in 15 minutes.
Oh,
so
well,
it's not too bad.
you're just gonna be
You'll
making
make it if you
I'll just
do
make
that.
it. I have all the
Get out of
agendas.
here now.
Thank you so
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
All right,
Very
thanks.
well.
All
Have a
right,
great
that's
day.
great.
Excellent. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thanks.
Get back to
Thanks.
it.
So Andy is here at,
at 2.
at
Two.
2.
I
Okay.
thought, since we have a few minutes, and rather than do this at the end, I'd just talk about the M3Q meeting at the base last week. Because, first of all, there's a joint land use review going on at the base. And the military has determined that this group of people, which represents each of the towns surrounding the base, like Bud Dunham is there from Sandwich, and there's Planner from Mashpee, and Bourne, no one was there from Bourne, and others representing Falmouth. And then there are, all the military branches are represented, and consultants are there, people interested in water, wastewater. Cape Cod Commission is there. Actually, the Cape Cod Commission has the contract now from the military to actually develop the JLUS is what they call it, joint land use. And this group, this M3 cubed group, is actually the policy-making group that is going to review the plan and actually approve the plan and send it on to the various military people. But there was a big discussion about the lack of an evacuation plan. But they also mentioned that they are improving the Sandwich Gate. Right now, it's really a problem for people who want to enter through there because, and also it's very close to the neighborhood. They're on Snake Pond Road, so they're going to move it up a little further, more closer to the base, so that people in the neighborhood aren't impacted. They're improving the Falmouth Gate, which is on 151, Route 151, so that people from Falmouth can access it more readily than having to go around on Route 28 and use the main entrance. They, let's see, they have the BRAC. We heard that there was, which is the base realignment and closure operation that Congress votes every 5 years. There was a BRAC in '07, and so this is the year of another BRAC. If you remember, the Lieutenant Governor announced that he wanted to make sure that all the military bases in the Commonwealth were prepared and ready and would be sustained through a BRAC. And he,
I
I
tell
think,
people that brackets.
yes, base realignment and closure. And so anyway, then there was, so I think the Lieutenant Governor visited many of the bases. He visited the base here. And then I read in the paper where BRAC had determined that Hanscom Air Force Base was not going to be closed, that the BRAC would not affect it. So I asked the question about the BRAC, and they said, well, there isn't any BRAC. They've determined now that Congress never really apparently followed up on it. They haven't even figured out yet whether there were any savings, because the whole purpose of the BRAC is to reduce the cost and close bases down to save money. And they hadn't really determined if any money was saved from the 07 BRAC, so they decided not to go forward with the BRAC. So there is going to be no BRAC review at Otis, which is very good because they keep improving their mission. The Coast Guard Rescue just completed a new hangar, which was dedicated yesterday. And this is they are now going to have new aircraft, better aircraft than the ones they've been using for search and rescue and the other missions that they have. So they have new planes that will be here by, I think, around the end of August. That's why they built a new hangar to actually accommodate these. I think the military is also, what they state is they want very much, there are 5 branches of military at the base. There's the Army and there's the National Guard and the Army, and the Marines and the Air Force and the Coast Guard. And they have, PAPOS has a new commander, and he is a graduate of the U.S. Army School of Planning, which is probably, I'm told, one of the best planning schools anywhere, not only just in America, but anywhere.
Wait a minute, the U.S. Army School of Planning, I never knew they did any planning at all.
Well, so I asked him, I said, well, why don't you send me something
planning and logistics,
on
they're
planning?
really good.
So he did.
Logistics, yes.
He actually sent me the joint military criteria for evaluating courses of action. Now, obviously, it has military terms in there like battlefields and weapons and all that, but you could take those out and substitute them for wastewater treatment plants, things like that. But anyway, I'm gonna make copies of that, because he kind of,
Did he say where this Piney School was?
I don't know where it is.
Because, you know, usually, you know, on that particular career path, you go to the advanced school, then to CNGI, then down to Newport, or the, you know.
I'm told that the Army planning is the Cadillac of planning,
Well,
educational
tell you that?
centers. Huh?
The
I
Army
don't
told you
know.
that?
Well, what can I
Guy
say?
in charge told you.
I'm not
And
gonna
Bill's
debate
upset he
that.
didn't get
I'm
the
just
memo.
No,
gonna-
I mean,
I'm just telling you.
I was very concerned with logistics when I was on active duty, because that was one of the parts of the career.
Well,
path I was
anyway, I
on.
just wanna let you know that they have a very large payroll, which completely has huge benefits for the surrounding towns and
Right, that's
elsewhere.
economic development.
Which is, economic development is a huge thing with them.
In NACO, there's a movement in some of the counties to approach the feds to take over parts of the base in order to build up industrial parks, because it's like because of the open space that's connected with some parts of the base that's not being utilized for military purposes. Some of the counties have been talking about transfer of public land ownership to the counties so that they can develop, they can use it to develop, commercial purposes.
Well, that's somewhat part of their planning. Out in California, they are a little bit ahead of us at the military base in the state of California, or the surrounding communities to some of the bases in California. And they have come up with what they call joint power agreements. And this, I don't mean by power, electricity or coal, I mean authority.
Yeah,
Joint power agreements between and among the military and the communities that surround the base. So they're kind of looking through this whole JLUS process to end up with something like this. They want to be able to share what they can provide in terms of services with the towns and vice versa. Like, for instance, they may have equipment that we could use in a snowstorm, plows, or when they're done plowing the roads and the airstrips and all of that, there may be time left over where they could plow Route 28 from the Rotary, the Otis Rotary to the Bourne Bridge, something like that. The Army, I'm talking about the military.
no, I'm talking about, I thought there was some MOUs for helping us out with that.
No, there aren't any. And though that was the whole idea, that they would develop some MOUs where they could help in the surrounding community and vice versa.
Yeah.
Where they may wanna call upon the town to help. There are MOUs, but they relate to the transfer station, they relate to water. The
Fire
town of
service,
Falmouth has an MOU. We receive, or we have pumped from the base something like 700 and some thousand gallons a day from the aquifer under the base, because there isn't enough water in the summertime.
Well,
So MOUs like that,
it's
that's what
obvious
they're
that there's
talking
a
about.
spirit of cooperation that's already
It
existing,
is, yeah, it's always been there, but every time there's a new military command, it seems to
Yeah.
change and hopefully improve. So,
And they have their own rules. I know we were, as CVAC, they had approached us to develop their landfill for PV solar, but federal procurement rules don't allow the local entity, even a municipal local entity, to do procurement for them. They have to follow their own procurement rules, so they have to go out for an RFP on their own anyways, so.
that's,
So it's federal rules are very
it's
cumbersome.
federal rules
Yes, they
prevail,
are.
and if you think the commanders have a lot of authority, they really don't, because they're very
They have
much
to go up the
controlled
chain,
by the,
yeah.
go up the chain.
Chain of command is essential to good order
Absolutely.
and discipline.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it doesn't always help get things done on the local level sometimes.
They've moved forward on that. They have been, even when I was still in the reserves, one of the things that they did was they started issuing credit cards to local commanders so they could do, instead of going through federal procurement, that they were given items that could be picked up locally at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. And it did a lot for facilitating the process of meeting the requirements of maintaining their base and maintaining their their combat readiness and proficiency.
so, well, we still have
Oh.
5 minutes.
Sheila,
You take a break?
here's a
Oh.
present for you.
Oh, why, thank you. What made,
It's the economic impact of the arts.
Need a-
oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could
And-
also
and
tell you.
you might tell Kenneth that, Ken Howard, that he should have answered the survey, because only Pittsfield in Massachusetts has been listed as a partner for,
You know, I think they did try to be part of it. If I, but I will pass this on, so thank you.
Well, I could do something too.
Yes, go ahead.
I just, Sean mentioned AmeriCorps
Yes.
and the good work that they were doing with some of the sheltering, and that's up. Their year 13, if you can believe that, graduation ceremony is Thursday, July 26th.
Next week.
Week from
At
tomorrow.
Community College.
At the Tilden Arts Center at the Community College from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So you're certainly, hopefully you guys will be there, but anybody who's interested
I think I've got that down.
is.
And also, they received their funding.
They got their money,
Yes,
that's
they
right.
got their
3
money.
years a month, 3 years
And
funding.
thanks to Senator John Kerry, who apparently is the one who was able to unleash it from wherever it was.
Yes.
Because they moved into a different category.
They were in the special, yeah, because they're such a good program, they were in the special, sort of the federal-only pile of money. They weren't in the state Mass Service Alliance pile. But of course, no good deed goes unpunished. The federal pile with some of the cutbacks at the federal level, so we didn't know whether they actually were gonna get funded in that bucket, and they actually ended up.
And they did, which was really
It's
good.
very good,
Yes, that was very good
So
news.
that's super, yeah. Plus, they also have, I don't know the details, we'll have to have Darlene in to talk about it. They also got some extra money for forest fire prevention program. Apparently, there are going to be some extra slots, residential slots that are gonna be put up at the seashore in a facility for forest fire prevention.
Oh, well, that'll be good.
Yeah, that's very good.
Excellent.
Well,
So-
I just say that I'll have a fuller report later on, but one of there were two interesting things that happened. One is there was a heavy emphasis in one of the committees that I serve on the economic impact of the arts and the significant contribution that the arts make to the economy. And Cape Cod was given recognition for actually pursuing that. The other thing was that I was invited to be part of a focus group that looked at county.
You're talking about county government at the national level.
Right, yeah.
At the
So
NACO
people know.
conference.
The NACO conference,
NACO
right.
conference, and I'll have more information later, but I was invited to participate in the focus group on what are some of the significant issues that we're facing. And earlier, I had given you a copy of a report that was generated by the Carl T. Vinson Institute down at the University of Georgia, and they were following up on some of that. But I also met one of the people that was part of the expansion of county governance in Maine, Peter Kitchen, who I've known for some time, and he's invited us if we have any questions with regard to what process they went through with regard to that expansion. He'd be happy to talk to us about that. He also suggested that there was a question that you had raised, that I raised with him, about how did you evaluate the county administrator, the county executive's job description, and he suggested that the same institute has done a lot of research and work and development of that, and of course all of those elements are available online through that. So if you wanted to get some sense of what a more global picture with regard to that, of course that would include a description for counties that have larger scope of services and so forth. But nevertheless, I think it's sort of pointed in that kind of very specific area of what do people expect from, let's say a county executive and the person that's given the responsibility for management. So I thought that was a useful piece of
Yes, well,
information.
thank you. And where would I
Carl
look
T.
for that?
Vincent, you could connect to the University of Georgia or through the Carl T. Vincent, or through NACO. NACO would have a link to it as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, now we have Andy Gottlieb in from the hot sun.
Andrew.
So,
Water
nice of you
everywhere,
to come
and not a
by.
drop to drink.
I would like
Name
to,
tag's new.
Yes, my name tag is new.
Are you having an identity crisis?
I would like to
Just in case
state,
you,
So we
anybody
know who
here,
you are.
I'll be able to refer you to the right place.
I want to state for the record that this agenda item is an interim report on a regional wastewater approach by Andrew Gottlieb, Executive Director of the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative. It is not about a review of the establishment of a taxing authority or something similar to the MWRA. This is a regional approach for Cape Cod, so the floor is yours.
Okay. I don't know, several weeks ago when we were last in, you'd asked at Sheila's request for an interim report on where we were. And so I'm here to do that for you today. We've, at your direction, back in the spring, Paul and I began the process of evaluating what our options might be to provide more rapid, lower cost, and less infrastructure intensive wastewater solutions than what we've been seeing coming through a town by town process. We, in working with the governing board, came up with a process that we've used to govern how we've gone about this. We've been using the governing board or the steering committee of the collaborative as an initial sounding board to evaluate issues on a piece-by-piece basis. So rather than take the whole issue, we're breaking it up into individual bite-sized pieces. We've looked at factors that drive cost, we've looked at the regulatory and legislative environment that governs wastewater planning in Massachusetts. We've looked at the latest performance statistics on alternative systems. Excuse me, we've done each one of those first with the collaborative board, and then we're in the process of taking that discussion out to public meetings so that we can have an open discussion with people about the basis of the analysis, what we're thinking, why we came to some of the conclusions that we are, and get feedback on that. We did one of those in Harwich around the cost pieces. We're going to be doing another one in early August, or a couple probably, around the legislative and regulatory foundation and the performance. So we're basically trying to take things in small pieces, discuss them multiple times in public. We moved all our governing board meetings to Barnstable Town Hall because they have offered us the recording feature, because our schedules didn't match to get it done here. And then we're posting those online so people can see them if they want to see them, and have a record of what we've been talking about. So we're going through that process. At the same time, Paul and I have each separately, for the most part, although occasionally we have teamed up, have been going to the individual boards of selectmen. I'm close to being done. I think Paul's a little closer to being done than I. We got 4 or 5 left. A couple have been a little tricky to get into. And those have been, I think, by and large, fairly productive conversations. We've been able to
Do
tell.
they shoo you out the door fast, or do they actually engage in a conversation?
We haven't done it yet, but the only one that's sort of actively been telling me I need to keep it really brief has been Wellfleet.
I know, yeah, they like to.
Yeah, you can come, but keep it short.
You have
We'll
to-
give you
yeah,
10. We'll give you 10 minutes.
10 minutes, I know,
We'll
and
give you
they're
10
very,
minutes. Yeah.
yeah.
And they've run, I don't know, anywhere from 20 minutes to 45.
Oh, that's a good discussion.
And they've been, I've been really quite impressed with the level of engagement that every board has shown on this. There's been some variation of opinion, but quite frankly, most of them have been pretty engaged and are interested in approaching the discussion with an open mind, which I think is really all we've been asking for out of this. So, we're on track to have gone through the issues by the early to mid part of the fall, and then be in the process of coming up with a set of recommendations to you by the end of the year as you'd requested. I think that for the most part, we're looking at things with an open mind, looking at all the various options. The one thing that I have told a couple of boards, and I'll tell you, so the main news piece of all this is, that the one thing that we've determined, and I think going in had this predisposition and nothing we've heard in the interim changed that, or actually has sort of confirmed it, is that the whole notion out there that the recommendation is going to be one central system that is run centrally and serves the entire region is an issue that we've taken off the table. It was never placed on the table by the county, it was never placed on the table by the commission. It's not something I ever thought was a particularly good idea. It gets talked about a lot out there. And it is the one alternative, I'll tell you, that because of combination of the exorbitantly high cost of doing something that way, the resulting overbuilding that would come from it, of overbuilding of infrastructure, and the growth and development implications that it would impose on the region, that's clearly an alternative that we absolutely will not recommend to you.
Right. Well, if I can pick up on that, I think it was Senator O'Leary that kind of put it on the table as far as, and I don't even think people understand what he meant by that. Maybe he was going to one extreme, but, you know, what I saw us pursuing is that we've always talked about there's cost savings and there's a more efficient, smaller footprint if we do this in a regional way. And I was speaking to people in Yarmouth recently, and they were saying that there's now discussion that is picked up again by maybe expanding using Barnstable's water system coming into it. That was talked about before. It was not agreed on more on the town levels at that time than it was even by the voters. It wasn't, I don't think it even got to be considered to the voter. But now there's new leadership in Barnstable, and I think that those discussions are opening up again. And those were those opportunities where we saw expanding some existing systems could, you know, help those certain hotspot areas without having to build a whole new system. And what I looked at our charge as to you was, there's lots of talk about these are these methods that if we implemented them, we could start fixing this problem at a much lower cost. It's always going to cost something, but a much lower cost than what it would be to be traditional. And what does, so now that we keep talking about it, and everybody accepts the fact that we have a problem, so let's look at solutions, and what do those solutions look like, even if it's a regional approach. An approach is just looking at a different way. It's really, this is how it could happen, and how do you then facilitate those agreed upon methods, you know, or agreements that could happen between towns. Does someone have to facilitate that between towns? I mean, that's about as much authority as I ever saw with something facilitating, you know, that conversation and keeping track of, okay, we've got this much done here, now we're gonna go to section A, you know, how do those towns get together and what's their first steps, second steps, third steps to carry it through. I never looked at it as a, number one, it would be ridiculous to have an MWRA here because it's a whole different entity, and the MWRA already had an infrastructure it was dealing with. We would have to start from scratch, and there's no way we could do that. So I do think that there was a misunderstanding. People latched onto that word and have never let it go and never really allowed themselves to a clear understanding of it. But
I suppose it's inappropriate to introduce this coinage I was going to use when we raised all the taxes.
Is it a token?
It's always,
RTA token?
it's always nice to
Those
have
aren't
those
good
visuals.
There is a serious question with regard to waters of the U.S.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that, you know, that's being talked about nationally is whether or not the, you know, the Clean Water Act and the EPA, and the fact that if the groundwater is considered to be part of the contribution to the waters of the U.S., that makes a significant implication as to whether or not point source, which is one of the things we keep talking about, is, you know, is going to be understood clearly.
That's the central question that'll be at issue in the lawsuit when it goes to trial.
Yeah, and that was mentioned, and it's being talked about because it has implications not just for Cape Cod, but, you know, nationally with regard to that. So, you know, we're doing things here, but it's not,
We're not
here
a
is never
vacuum.
just
yeah,
here.
we're not in a
None of
little
Yeah,
isolated bubble.
well, I'll make a comment, but I think we want you to keep going with
Yes.
your
Yeah.
presentation and maybe take up
Sorry.
questions
Okay.
at the end.
Right,
So-
and pontificate at the
Yes.
end.
Yeah, so
Then he
so
would
that
get to
one
say-
option is not anything that we're spending any time on developing, costing, you know, thinking through what the management structure would look like to do one county-wide system. So that's just off the table. And from there, though, we're gonna continue to look at, you know, what some of the issues are that prevent towns who share a resource from developing joint solutions more readily than they have. And evaluate, you know, what are those impediments impediments and what are the ways you could solve them? Can they be solved on a town-by-town basis with a degree of coaching and interaction from the county? Do you need some other authority to step in, compel? What are those types of issues, and how's that all gonna work? All the way to, an integrated county-type system that looks at different types of solutions as applicable to individual watersheds and works with communities and residents to make those happen. That's still the range that we're looking at, but we're not looking at anything that has one centralized option and alternative, because that makes no sense at all. And so we'll be doing that over the course of the summer and the early part of the fall. Had a little bit of thought, and it's come up a number of times, we never explicitly had this conversation about, so what happens with the recommendation? You're going out, you're having these public meetings, you're hearing what people have to say, getting some input into that process now. You come up with a draft set of recommendations, and then what happens to those? My thought was that once we have a draft idea of where this might all be headed, that before presenting it formally as a product to you, that we have some type of public hearing discussion process to get some feedback on it before it comes to you.
Right.
So that the product that we're giving you has been vetted a little bit more broadly than it might otherwise do, so that we don't hand you something and then have people say, well, we haven't seen it, or we haven't had a chance to comment on it. It struck me that it probably better serves the outcome and the process that we take a draft recommendations on the road. Whether we end up doing a 15-town tour again, or we hold a couple centralized ones, I don't know, but I feel pretty strongly that we ought to commit ourselves to previewing the set of recommendations to the public before they land with you. At the same time, I don't want you to feel like we sent you off, you sent us off to do something, and then you read about it in the
Now
paper
you're
first.
rogue. Now you're going rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep, one of my first experiences in learning about the county and how it works and the different people that are involved was attending the regional plan, the RPP development. Paul had just come on board, and he would have them in this meeting, and so a lot of developers, a lot of business people. I mean, the room was packed every session of people saying, the Cape Cod Commission's gonna stop me from pursuing my business. And, so they put out their draft, basically, of what you're presenting, and then people just came in and really argued their points and kind of, had, when they were really good arguments and good points to be had, all of those things were written in red, and then it was reviewed again, and really there was a consensus built upon that plan that everybody had a little piece of ownership and more understanding of what it meant for them and what those regulations for that particular plan. And I think that was a great model to have, because there was a lot of back and forth, there was a lot of kind of heated discussions sometimes, but they were all left inside the room once people walked outside the door, and it was a very healthy process, I thought. So I think that if something can be done on that level, and even extended to where people do have that feeling that the timing is so that they can be there and give input, and that they've been heard, and that then there's a sense of ownership in the end. Because not everyone's going to get what they want. Nobody's going to get. Not everybody's going to get everything they want. But I think if people feel that the best that can be done for the lowest cost, and we're really being thoughtful and not just going willy-nilly on what we think is the best idea, which I couldn't even say what I do think is the best idea because I'm not sure yet, is a place for people to at least have more confidence in the plan going forward. And it always, in all of these plans, adjust as they're being implemented, because you start to see what's working and what isn't working, and then there's, we didn't necessarily have to do that because this solution or this procedure that's been put in place is actually having more benefit than what we expected, so therefore it doesn't have to be as heavy on that side. So,
I'd always expected that we would not lose sight of the fact that we have a role in the coordination of the solution on a centralized basis, but not necessarily a central solution.
exactly.
I think that
That's a
that
very good
distinction
way to
has
put
to
it.
be made.
Right.
And as we go to this last piece of, let's say, getting vetting, if you will. I think that one of the things we should think about is, I thought it was very successful when we invited we had, I don't know if we can go to that kind of money, but when we had the people in the room that were that could comment on the feasibility and the capacity of the plan to solve the problem, I think that that's very powerful and compelling, because there's an emotional reaction when people are coming in and they're concerned about issues that have to do with how they're paying for it, but they need, in my opinion, some justification as to why things cost what they do. And I think that that's one of the things that that we had gotten out of that process when we had everybody in.
Yeah, the peer review.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm supporting a peer review in a preliminary basis, but I am supporting some type of form of that might utilize local resources in order to move that forward. So I wonder if you give some thought to that as we go forward, so we can point to, and we've had people look at it that know about what the scientific principles involved are, and can give some weight to why why the plan is suggesting a particular methodology and a particular level of application in order to make it work. So
What I find interesting about that peer review, which was excellent, and confirmed a lot of maybe conclusions that we were forming as we were going through this, and what had been formed even before I came on for the 10 years preceding, is that everybody looks at that, when people who are feeling that we're going in an opposite direction will refer to that panel and those recommendations, like, why aren't they listening to this peer review? Whereas there was nothing in there that we were in disagreement of, and as a matter of fact, that's what we're now pursuing. What those recommendations, what do they look like on paper, and what are the real costs behind them? And so I don't understand where people they're still not making that connection of the peer review. But
Well, I think,
who are we to wonder why?
there's a somewhat background drumbeat about, what the peer review committee said and how what
Yeah.
we're pursuing is at variance with that.
Right.
One of the major allegations of that line of thinking was that, we have an intention to create a central system.
Yeah.
And I've just told you we're not. So I don't think there is any conflict in that. I'm
Yeah.
sure that argument will get tweaked and distorted so that it continues to have some perceived rhetorical value to the person who's pursuing it, but, it's
Right.
nonsense.
The person, as you say.
It's nonsense.
Yeah.
a persistent repetition of a position.
Doesn't make it true.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's the report at this point. This, is just to give you an update on where we were, and, the only news item is, as has always been the case, a central system is not anything that we're giving any consideration to.
A central system, otherwise known as a taxing authority or MWRA.
Whatever people want to say about it.
Yeah.
Whatever
If you
people
call
want.
it whatever you
Call it.
want.
Call it
That's
whatever you
what
want,
it
but
is.
the
It's not
allegation
there.
that this is an exercise to justify a decision that's already been made to create one centralized treatment system for the entire region is patently false and not something we're looking at, or wasting anybody's time looking at.
Well, I think we ought to recognize that every time we deny, we're accused of, sort of supposed positions. So maybe we ought to move on and say, asked and answered. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get back to what we're intending, and next time we see you,
So-
get more progress.
So I think, what you're really saying is that you're moving toward the development of some recommendations. But the idea is to have those recommendations reviewed first in the public's,
Yeah, and we-
in the
yeah,
public
from-
arena
yeah, from the-
before you send them to us. I think that's a
Exactly.
great idea.
That's entirely
Oh, I
consistent
do
with the
too,
message and the direction you gave us at the time you did, which was
Right.
to ensure that this was done in the full light of day, and had the opportunity for public comment, throughout the process. And we created a process that abides by that desire and, continue to do so. But I didn't wanna, like I said, I didn't want you to pick up the paper one day and say that there's a draft set of recommendations out there, first you've seen of it, that we all understood
Right.
the process,
That this
steps
is-
we were
this is
gonna
part of the
follow,
process,
and you had a
right.
comfort level with that before we
Yeah,
went ahead
we'll
and
even
did it.
attend some of those sessions.
So that's where we are.
I wanted to mention too about the lawsuit,
Mhm.
the CLF and the Buzzards Bay Coalition and EPA, is, we all know now that they failed to reach a settlement. So now they're back in court.
Yep.
And they're working on whatever they have to do.
Filing motions and answers.
Filing motions and all that sort of thing. But I've been hearing out there that some towns are beginning, and some water districts are beginning to see a value to becoming an intervener
Yep.
in that process, because if a decision is made,
Pat, I'm
Either.
not sure I would say towns and water.
Water districts.
It's definitely water districts.
Two water districts.
well, there's
This
also.
happened at the town managers, this came up
Oh,
at the
it
town
did?
managers luncheon the other day. Actually, Paul did a good job, because one of the water districts,
That's what he told me.
Sandwich was invited, and they had an attorney there that they had hired.
McGregor?
I forget his name, but anyways, he sort of gave a little overview of
must
what
be
was
Gregor.
going on, and I would say from the town manager's perspective, it was met with sort of polite applause and no more, sort
Really?
of thing, yeah.
Well, I'm hearing from boards of selectmen that they have a different take on it.
It's maybe different. yeah.
That some of them are looking at the possibility of decisions being made that could affect citizens in the towns, and maybe towns who are moving forward in their wastewater plans and, you know, have put a lot of work in that, are saying, wait a minute, if a decision comes down that is going to affect homeowners in our town, and we've been working very hard to create a plan on how to deal with this, and we have no say, we would like to at least have
What are we
intervener.
going to do?
I'm amused by that.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because that's what we've
Because
been
we
trying.
took a lot of, we took a lot of grief for engaging
Yes, oh,
in the litigation to the point of answering, providing a, you know, fairly full-throated and aggressive defense of the Cape's position on the plaintiffs. And we had numerous people, including some that are now actively proposing and being articulate proponents of why there ought to be intervention, on why that was a legal mistake.
Right.
So
Well, it was a
you'll have
legal
to-
mistake
you'll have-
because they weren't
You'll
doing
have
it.
to, you'll
That-
have to forgive
you
me
were-
to
you were
notice
doing
the
it
irony.
Yes, well,
And
no, I-
people's belief that perhaps some of us, people don't have memories.
well,
So,
maybe,
well,
it depends
maybe
on
we-
how hard one has worked toward a solution, and then all of a sudden finding that solution could possibly be jeopardized
Oh,
because
when
of
it's
a
your
decision
solution,
by the
then-
court.
Yeah, when it's your,
So it's
yeah,
your
when it's.
solution that's different.
Right.
Well, certainly at the beginning of the path,
And we were
often
supporting
selectmen and
probably
town
their
administrators
solution.
aren't seeing eye to eye, and usually at the end of the path they are. But, you know, Paul sort of answered this question, he did an excellent job. And his basic answer was, you know, if you're gonna spend money on doing your wastewater planning, because that way, no matter what comes down the pipe, you're sort of ready and able to say, see, we've done a lot of work on this, we've thought about it, we've got an answer. Instead of
Isn't that what
spending
we've
money
been
on
That's
trying to
entirely-
say?
I mean, that
That
has
is
been
the
the answer,
point.
that's been the answer whenever there's been confusion. There's been confusion among communities about, you know, the relationship of their local planning to what's being talked about in the courts. And similarly, there's confusion between their local planning and how it will dovetail both with the evaluation of the regional alternative that we're doing, as well as the county wastewater management plan that the commission's doing.
Right,
And consistently, the answer has been, invest in your local planning, because in any outcome, having a local plan that reflects your needs, your water bodies, you know, and your community character and cost issues, will always put you in a better place than not having a plan, because you're either, nothing's gonna change, you're gonna be in a position to implement it, so you don't wanna sit around and not do it. Or, to the extent the federal courts intervene on the extreme example and impose the solution, you're always in a better position in the remedy phase of a trial to go to the judge and say, we have a plan, here's what we'd like you to tell us we need to adopt, rather than have the court substitute their judgment for what you've done, or be in a position to have to come up with something in the absence of any localized plan. So you're always better off, and we've told people for years now,
Yes.
do
Get
your
your
local plan,
plan together.
do your local plan.
So that when the bell rings, we can, and even if the town of Orleans or the town of Chatham or the town of, you know, says, well, wait a minute, we have our plan here. They're going to do something to they want to make a decree over all of Cape Cod, but we've been doing this. If we all have those plans together and we have there's a unified agreement to these plans, you know, and they've been shared amongst the towns, then there's even a stronger voice, not just a one-town
Right.
voice or a one-district voice, to be able to say to the federal government, not only are we doing this work, we're gonna tell you how much, we have a pretty good idea what this is gonna cost, and this is what we can't pay.
But the
We
problem
cannot
is,
pay this, we need you to do it.
but the problem is, if this issue that is now in court is decided, then the towns can't even appeal, because they don't have any status to
standing.
appeal. So I think that's a
We're
real
not going to
problem for the
ask
town.
the
Even whether you,
towns to.
well, I don't know. We had thought
We
about
batted
maybe
that around
sending
at
a
one
letter
time.
Yeah.
to the different boards of selectmen and just saying to them, look, here's the status of this court issue, you know, the EPA, the CLF, and the BBC. Here's where it is, this is the case, and if a decision is made, none of the towns will be able to appeal the decision or have any impact on the decision, so it's just gonna be
Yeah, I
something
mean,
that,
there's
if
some
the
legitimate
EPA
questions of
wins,
standing.
if the EPA wins, that has one set of circumstances. If CLF or the BBC, that's another set of circumstances. But either way, it comes out with some authority to direct what the towns would have to do. So we had thought about the idea of whether or not we should send a letter to towns saying, here's the situation, are you interested
Right, join us.
in intervenor status, and if
Yeah.
you are, let us
I
know,
was
and
supposed to
maybe
do
we
that,
can
and I
help
haven't done it yet,
coordinate.
so I can't.
Okay.
So, what is your?
So do you think that it's still something worthwhile doing?
I think there are a lot of issues around intervention. I think that there's a timing question about when you might want to think about intervening. This is a resource-intensive stage of the process for everybody filing motions and like, so
Right,
this would be a very expensive time to get in.
right.
So it may make some sense to think about that a little bit and decide on when and if you want to do it.
You
when
speak with one
strategic.
voice. I mean,
That's the way
the
to do it.
delegation has
Yeah,
come
just-
out in favor of one voice, the Senate president, this state senator, they have seen what it is.
But we can raise the
Well,
issue.
I think, well, we should also, in the letter, advise any towns that they should discuss it with their own town council. And
Yeah.
take some advice from their own council on whether.
I would suggest to you that, you know, on an area of subject matter, there are a few town councils are gonna be equipped to
even-
participate in this.
yeah, hold on
fully.
just a second.
So I think, you know, the whole issue about special counsel is gonna be one that's very quickly gonna get on people's radar. You know, certainly the town councils can provide them some general overview and guidance, but if you're gonna get in, I think it's reasonable to establish in the town's mind that they're gonna have to go, they're gonna have to seek subject matter expertise on this that they don't
Okay, Bill.
possess.
If we are agreed that a coordinated plan is something that makes a significant contribution, and the plan is actually independent of any intervention, then we have a regional planning agency. And I think that that what I don't understand in this is if you're going forward without taking into account the benefits you would get by having the regional plan coordinated by the regional planning agency, we're missing out on the part that is supposed to be an outcome. So from
We're following our own advice, which is we're working hard on a regional plan and
Yeah.
evaluating what our options are.
I think we ought to invite people to, we ought to invite the towns to give an opinion as to why they, you know,
What's the next
what do they find wrong with us providing this regional planning support?
I haven't heard
Yeah.
much
September.
in that regard, but I haven't heard a lot of, I mean, by and large, people, in our conversations with the Board of Selectmen, people seem to understand and appreciate the value of the work that's happening at the commission, in developing the tools that we're developing to help move this thing forward. I don't get a lot of pushback about that, really.
Okay, but to me, the whole thought is that, and this would put to rest a lot of these other concerns that people have about, you know, the megalithic, you know, empire of, you know, of waste, or say, water management, that if they were participating in providing input to a, let's say, to a consolidated regional plan, their participation offsets the concern that citizens have because they, you know, they have voluntarily agreed to participate. And the outcome of it would be a plan that takes advantage of all of the diversity in terms of application that, you know, that we're concerned about maintaining. And to me, I don't think that that piece has been understood enough to get the kind of commitment that we're looking for. And when you're going out and talking to people, I think there's a nod towards, you know, towards recognizing the value of the contribution that the county regional planning agency can make, but I don't see the transfer from the over-applied local planner and the ability that the Cape Cod Commission planning capacity has in order to support their needs. So I think that there needs to be not at the planning level, and not at the local planning level, because I think we get support for that. But I think at the policy level, I think there has to be some willingness to give over the authority to, let's say, to move a consolidated plan forward to the regional planning agency, which has the responsibility of delivering such an item. We don't want to be operating in a silo, however large.
Or tall.
All right, so
Okay.
I'll put together that letter and we'll move on.
Yeah, we'll see how that would go.
So you two have been doing these things separately. I know that Paul's doing his conversations with Paul. You know? And I think that they're somewhat regularly attended. I mean, you know, there's
We've gotten
good
out,
input.
you know, between the three of us, since this whole thing started, you know, we'll have done almost 50 visits with boards of selectmen and other meetings, you know, in individual communities, talk about this stuff.
But then
And
once
we'll-
we are forward, then we'll
and
make
we'll
sure
repeat
that
it.
it's, yes. And
Well-
on August 14th, remember you're coming to the Wellfleet Resident Taxpayers
You say so.
Association. So don't be,
You
don't
say
be
so. I
booking
had forgotten,
something that
but
night. I know, I'll
I'm sure
send
it's
you
on
a
my calendar.
reminder. So,
Well, I attended one of Paul's conversations last Saturday.
did you?
Hildy Mingate, who's here, was also there. She had a few disagreements with Paul, which he accepted, I thought, very well, don't you think? Hildy, did you want to say something? If you
I
do,
don't know if he accepted them,
well,
because I went to the next one and he didn't mention any of the discussions we had.
yeah, do you want to introduce yourself just so people know?
Yeah, Hilde Menge from Falmouth, and I'm very active as a citizen to promote alternatives that are true ecologically sustainable alternative. No more flush and forget systems. And the one thing that Paul did agree with that, and he repeated that in the board meeting, is that sewer plants are unsustainable. And I have not seen anything from that I've heard from even Paul, from Andrew right now, of any true ecological, sustainable alternatives. It's always flush and forget. Might be small pipes, big pipes, regional, town, combined towns, it's all the same. And it means that we do not conserve water, we do not conserve energy, we do not even think about recuperating all the nutrients. And that never comes up in any of the conversations. And it is shocking to me that even after all this time it never comes up. Until that comes up, that would be excellent to do it as a regional plan. But if that doesn't come up, then we are not solving the estuaries.
Did have one,
Thank you, I think.
I did have one other thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to bring to your attention. It doesn't pertain directly to the regional thing, but as you know, we've been sponsoring the 3 projects in front of MIPA for wetlands alterations on behalf of the towns, the Bourne Pond opening, Mill Pond dredging, and Parker's River. We had 2 ENFs, Mill Pond and Bourne Pond, that we submitted. We have been having lengthy discussions with MIPA and had an understanding from them what process they wanted to follow. So the special review process, we're going to set up an advisory committee and air the issues out. And for whatever reason, they had not convened that committee after multiple requests on our part to have them do that. The town of Barnstable's comprehensive plan is currently in MIPA review. It's due to get a secretary certificate this Friday. There was some bureaucratic questions they had in their mind about how to reconcile the Mill Pond ENF that we filed and the town's comprehensive wastewater management plan, and it was, quite frankly, getting to the point where it was getting in the way of Barnstable being able to proceed with its local plan and get a certificate. So I withdrew them 2 days ago with
All three?
all three, with a high degree of frustration on MIPA's inability to move and think anywhere outside the box about the larger role of alternative approaches and how it fits into localized planning, and this being wedded to a process without being able to think about the outcome and how we might do it differently. Even when they told us how to do it differently, we still couldn't do it. So we pulled them. We may go back and do it again, but we were hit the point of sort of unproductiveness. And very interestingly enough, the day after we pulled them, I got an email from the analyst saying, again, so who are the names of the people you wanted for the committee? So we suggested when we pulled them that they convene the committee, they have the process discussion, and figure out how they want to manage these things, so that if we file them again, they'll actually know what to do with them. So,
Well, interesting, because the Falmouth Board of Selectmen will probably vote their comprehensive wastewater plan next week. And in that plan
Is
is
Bourne Pond,
is
and
the
that's
Bourne
fine.
Ponds Inlet.
but what they couldn't get their mind around was, well, the county's kind of sponsoring these things and wants, you know, a waiver from the EIR requirement, and yet we've got the local plans. And the local plans seem predicated on the fact that they were gonna get a certificate for these things, because that's what the plan was.
Right.
And you don't have a certificate, notwithstanding the fact that we're the ones that didn't give you the certificate. How are we supposed to reconcile these two things?
But the 90-day public comment period will start next week, so that could
That's
all
fine, it
come
can
up
all
during the
come out in
public
the,
comment
it can all
period.
come out in the wash. And there's nothing by us pulling back that precludes you from pursuing it, nothing that, it actually, it makes it, what we did appears to have made it easier for Barnstable to go ahead. What it doesn't do is achieve the outcome of the project as it was conceived, which was come up with a environmental roadmap for towns that were doing these types of projects, so they wouldn't have to have the individual town-by-town discussion with MIPA, and MIPA couldn't handle that.
Wow.
It just made their head explode. So, you know, despite all the happy rhetoric we've gotten from the administration about they understand, they want to work with us, and they're into alternative approaches and all that, the one bureaucratic one we put in the middle kind of spit back at us. So rather than continue to fight it, we just pulled it, said, "Hell with it."
You know, we are called a commonwealth.
Very frustrated. I, you know, extremely frustrated with the process and what we went through to get nowhere on this whole process.
Maybe you should.
And you know what it does? I mean, to my mind, we've told them this, is it is prima facie evidence of why these types of things are not pursued by towns, because the system doesn't accommodate a different way of thinking about them. And I will tell you, if between myself and Bob Gollage, we couldn't figure out how to get this through the process,
That's not good.
good luck to anyone who tries to do it on their own.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So anyway,
Okay, I have a question for, is it Heidi?
Hilda.
Hilda,
Hildy.
I'm sorry, Hildy. Are you the person that does the eco tours?
Yes.
Okay, well, I have to sign up for one of those, because I've been talking a lot about that with people, and I have to see it for myself.
Absolutely.
And we did have a very long discussion with George Hoyfelder last week about alternatives and where their place is in the solution, in the remedy. So it's not that people aren't looking at this, or that we're not looking at it. It's, you know, how does it fit? And but I still want to, because I've had many different people who have gone on that give me different impressions. So the only way I can get my own impression is to do it on my own. So Pat's gonna have to, Pat has your information, or you
Yeah.
can get a hold of me on I'll give you my
I know
card as well.
it's unusual,
Yeah,
but actually it's not, of course, because that's how the ecosystem works, right?
I understand, no, I understand what
And
you're
it
saying.
is the only thing that I've seen so far that will long-term be a solution to our food production.
Well, this,
And even though inlet widening, which would be an excellent way to make the estuaries healthier sooner, because everything else is going to take a long time and they just degrade and degrade. In the long run, it's not a solution to put the nutrients in the ocean.
No.
So the inlet widening is good for short term, but it has to be coupled with other sustainable solutions, such
Exactly.
as eco-toilets.
Right.
And this is the only way, and we have it coupled with the eco-drum and making compost on a town-wide basis, and the pharmaceuticals are taken care of that way,
Right.
which nobody has dealt with. And we capture all the phosphorus that nobody has dealt with, and we deal with the freshwater ponds that nobody dealt with. So these costs, when you see the cost, it's a tiny bit of the solution. That even in Falmouth, if we did all the sewing, it wouldn't get to TMDL that we need.
Well,
So we have to look at the other way of what do we get, and which is all the nutrient recovery and energy consumption that goes down and the water consumption that goes down.
no, but I have to schedule an appointment to get up there and see, so thank you. I have to leave.
I know.
We've gone over, and I'm sorry, but I have,
Well, we were
Yeah.
gonna spend a
Yeah, the
little bit of
discussion
time on
tonight.
this. We can talk about it a little bit. It's just a scope of services
I'm done.
draft.
okay, so maybe I could leave and it could be
All right,
given to me.
Pete, thank you very much, Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, are you done?
I'm done. Mark's giving me the, get out of here.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, well, I have to go,
Get outta
because,
here.
I mean, I have to be somewhere in 15 minutes
Okay.
myself, so, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
So you all got the strategic plan draft
Yeah, yes,
last week, remember,
yes.
everybody?
I really, I can't say that I
Let me
brought it
just
with
say
Is
me.
it
one thing
attached?
about it. And
Okay.
the way I crafted it is because I don't think as a board, the
We're in
four of
agreement.
us, we agree as to what a definition of strategic plan is.
I
That's
think
why.
that's a very good observation.
So I think we need to sort of take a step back from the strategic plan and sort of get someone in to help us sort of, what is it you actually want to do? And that was sort of my, identify the strategic planning outcome that you guys expect.
Yeah,
So,
Well,
and that's what we wanna do, is just just have somebody come and work with us and help
Yes.
us facilitate getting to where we wanna go. Because we all have to end up with a cohesive
this is what we
set
expect.
of
okay,
major
Yeah.
categories that we want to address. Something like
help us.
financial policies, leadership, county services, regional services, whatever they might be as
Right.
part of a strategic, and you can't have more
That's
than.
what I was supposed to do, and I
What?
did it, and I found a copy of the strategic plan, and I forgot to copy it out and make copies. I'll send it to you
Okay,
electronically.
send it to us, please.
Okay.
The last one we did.
Yeah, we should have like 5 major categories that encompass almost everything we do. And then from there, we develop action steps under each category of how we're going to get to these specific goals, and then who's gonna be responsible.
And you're talking about the sort of traditional definition of strategic planning. And I don't think that we
No,
all
That
agree.
we all agree on
that
that,
that's
so,
exactly
yeah, so I
what
think
it
that
is we
we,
wanna
yeah,
do.
I think
And
it's good to do.
there's another concept that that people are using today, it's called RACI, R-A-C-I. And it's responsible, accountable, consulting, or informed. In other words, when you set up
It's a hierarchy.
it's a hierarchy, so that when you have a specific action step, and then you have to list on that action step who's responsible for it, who's gonna be accountable, who just simply has to be informed about it,
Right.
and who is going to be consulted in terms of getting that done. That's a new strategy that a lot of people are using now.
Right.
Some of the larger corporations are using RACI.
Okay.
So I think what we need is to have somebody who understands all this new kind of jargon, come and sit down with us so we can come together on how we want this plan to be structured.
Before I go, I also just wanna make a comment that I was reading an editorial last week. I think it was a Friday editorial, as a matter of fact. And,
I think we know
and there
which
was a
one
very,
you're referring
no,
to.
and there was a very good point in it that I would like to bring up and have John and Peter Carlson come in. I happen to agree that there is a lot lacking still on our websites and our communication even amongst ourselves. I've been trying to push that, so I actually liked that editorial, Mr. Still. And So I would like to have them come before us and really just talk about what is going on and what, because I hear that there are concerns from other departments and that other departments are having to go sort of rogue on their own and do their own thing. And I did not think that that's what we were, I thought we were doing a better job than that, and so I would just
That's
like to
funny,
bring them.
because I talk to department managers frequently, and I ask them that specific question, and I haven't gotten that feedback,
Well,
so that's
I
interesting.
mean, they're hiring their own website designers and all of this stuff, so it's, I would like to be able to pursue that and just have it really out there and discuss where we are and what's going on. I'd just like to have a better understanding of that. So if you could put them on the docket.
Well, we have
please,
we
Steve.
have a, we have a whole schedule, you've gotten a
Yes.
copy of that too, so,
Right,
just to go
we're meeting
over.
next week,
No, we're not meeting
we're not
next
meeting
week.
next week, okay,
And then August 1st, I have a start time of 2:30, and you're doing Paul's annual performance evaluation.
okay. Could we start that at 3? Is that gonna be a problem with people? 3 is actually turning out to be better
Is
for
that
me
August
than
1st?
1.
It is,
That's
it's an
an
assembly
assembly day.
day, yeah.
Well, if
Oh,
that's
so
all
it's
we
at
do,
2:30, okay, so
So
let's,
that's
alright,
all we
keep it at
have now.
2:30, keep it at 2:30.
keep it at 2:30?
On that particular day, but when it's not an assembly day, if we could go like 3 o'clock, it would be better for me.
Are the
if we
department
could be so
managers
kind.
bypassing the procurement process?
Rob,
Okay.
No, I'm not saying
She's
that,
not
and I
saying
don't
that.
know, that's why I wanna have them here, and I'm not gonna be making assumptions or going beyond that. I just would like to have them here and have an update on to where we're going. We haven't seen Peter Carlson here, he is a consultant with this, I would just like to have them here and have some questions.
And then August 8th is the Cooperative Extension Tour, so
Oh, yeah.
that's an all-day event. Bill would like to leave at 9, so I was suggesting we start at 8:30, just convene and do whatever business we have to do.
Yeah, maybe
and
you
leave
could
at
get us
9.
another update on the schedule, or if that's, or we're still sticking to the same schedule.
Yeah.
The one I
Which I
handed out last week
Is the,
sort
still,
of works,
still
yeah,
works,
exactly.
okay.
Unless there's some other changes that we're,
Would you send that again electronically?
sure.
So that I'll just have it on my desk.
Okay,
and
so
just-
next
So-
week we're meeting at what time?
We're not meeting,
We're not
We don't
meeting
meet
at-
next week.
We're not meeting until 25th.
no, because Mark's not here.
And Maggie's not here
And
either.
Maggie's not here either.
All right, so we're meeting on the 1st, and what time do we decide, 2 o'clock, 2:30?
2:30.
2:30.
Okay.
Well, Sheila just suggested 3.
No,
No, then she went back
on
and
that
said
particular day,
2:30.
it's an assembly day, we'll make it 2:30.
Okay.
But on non-assembly days, if we could make it 3, I would appreciate it. And if I can get, Jimmy that around, I'll let you know, but,
I have absolutely no problem with meeting at 3 o'clock. As a matter of fact, I think it would encourage more people to show up, because that's the end of the day.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we can even do it
But
later. if
no
you don't work
charge.
by. And we want to welcome Patrick
Pat Fritzie.
Fritzie onto the assembly,
Yes.
as he's been
And
He will
appointed.
be there today.
And he's already been sworn in. He came on, either Monday or Tuesday, Janice said. And she took care of all his swearing in business, so he's all ready.
Good.
Okay, and I must say that there's lots of activity going on about the assembly, people running for the assembly.
Really?
Down on the arcade, but anyway,
Oh, good.
Excuse me,
more to tell.
Mark.
Yeah.
Since
oh, he
you
says
and
what,
Marty
what?
will be here next
What,
week,
what?
is it possible for the commissioners
No,
to
Paul's not ready.
vote to approve Joanne?
Paul.
So there's lots of buzz.
I don't know. if
Uh,
that's-
Maggie's
Bill
here, I'm on
Actually, it's
vacation.
Oh, I thought you said
Uh,
Maggie wasn't here, just maybe
Yeah,
maybe
we
Maggie
got-
wasn't here
we
for the
got
meeting?
that word on
Yeah, she's not available. So we'll need
All
a
right,
I'm
vote
taking care of that for you, Bill.
to authorize Maggie to sign the warrants, the payroll,
You're gonna hold me.
Yeah.
et cetera, blah, 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 for next
All
week.
right, wait a minute, we have to finish the business here. Would you say that again, please?
We need a vote to authorize Maggie to sign the payroll, the warrants, and all contracts, and personnel papers for next week, since I'm not here and you're not meeting.
A motion?
I'll move that.
there. Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Yeah, but I'd like to
Aye.
have a list of it before
Yeah.
she signs them, just the summary before that's all implemented, please.
Yeah, you just put together
To
the
me, and
regular.
let us
Summary
know
like
what
we
it
did.
is, and then we can just say we approve.
Sure, so you would like to see a summary before she signs,
Yes.
not after, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please.
Yeah, she'll approve it, you don't meet, so you can't take any action.
No, we can't, no.
Then you can ask
Review it.
questions or
Yeah,
review it.
if I have questions,
Exactly,
if there's
that's
some
what you-
clarification on
Right.
these items, I would just like to have that before
Sure.
we
Yeah.
say, great.
So if you find something in it that you have an issue with, you need to notify Kara so that
Immediately.
Maggie won't sign it or
Right,
approve it.
immediately, right, okay. All right, well, thank you. May I be,
Yeah,
may I
well,
be
why don't
excused?
we vote the summary of actions?
Oh.
I'll move the summary of action.
I second.
Including the minutes of
Including-
7-11.
Yes, I read the
Right.
minutes and I
Right.
approve the minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
and you second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. Is there any other business? Mark?
No, I'm all set. No. Oh, I should mention one thing. Bill and I had a meeting with the ARC, Agriculture Resource Center, the other day.
Yes,
We had
how
a
was
very
that going?
productive meeting, and Bill is going to, he's doing a little presentation on that regarding ARC to the assembly
Yes,
this afternoon.
that's right.
Oh,
Oh,
is
it's
it
this
for this
afternoon, I wish I was
afternoon? Oh,
going,
good.
so I
Yeah.
regret
Oh,
that I
good,
can't do
then I
that.
don't have to say anything.
No.
Excellent.
Well,
No,
actually,
that's, is it,
given
is
the
No, I
Bill
haven't
Clark,
looked
agenda
at
is
Bill
Bill Clark that's
And
doing
then-
it, or you?
No, Bill
No,
Clark.
Bill Clark
Yeah.
is
Right, yeah.
presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, are
he's the-
you're on the agenda?
No, it's
No,
Bill
Are you
Clark.
coming?
Clark, I'll be
It's
going
Bill
there.
Clark that's
Okay,
presenting,
you'd
not
ask
that
me-
Bill, Bill Clark.
I know.
Oh, okay.
You had asked me to go, and I'm going.
No, that's next, that's a later date.
Oh, I thought that was today.
That's not today.
Oh, I'll be very disappointed. But I'm still going because I want to hear Bill Clark's
Yes,
presentation.
well, I regret that I will have to watch that, because, so give Bill my regards, because I've been pushing that.
A motion to
From
adjourn.
it being
So
assembly.
moved.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
and thank
We
you
are
for being
adjourned.
flexible with me
Thank
on
you.
this today. All right, good, I will be in touch. Thank you.
Okay, now I have, let me look and see.